Excellent. And with that, I think we'll continue. We've got a great crowd there in attendance. The title of today's session is How to Scale Ag CAS with Figured and QuickBooks Online. And your two attendees, your two presenters today, myself, James Higgy. I have been with Figured for 8 years now, worked with hundreds of accounting firms with a clear focus specifically on deploying agri-specific farm financial management and technology systems into firms to support the service. And I'm also alongside my colleague from QuickBooks Online here, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, James. My name is Tim Mangini. I am the Strategic Partnership Manager here at Intuit. I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been with Intuit for 3 years. The bulk of my time was spent on our national team working with 15 of our top 100 accounting firms. So from that, we've learned a lot about how important third-party apps are to all of our accountants to prosper. So really excited to be here with James and Figured, who we've identified as the premier agriculture app to pair with QBO. Perfect. So quick tidy before we get started. So we're going to walk through defining some objectives. We're going to really dig into the product today with James, and then we'll talk about next steps and how to get connected with our teams. So quick backstory on how we got here today, right? So for several years, we know that accountants have been on the move to the cloud. We also know that QBO is really leading the charge there. We just announced over the last few weeks a stop sell on a handful of our desktop products in 2024, which is just further cementing our commitment to the cloud. So QuickBooks Online brings so many cloud benefits that most of you know already. Things like allowing you to work anywhere, anytime on any device. It provides a fully integrated platform for your small business clients to solve their big challenges. Things like accounting, payroll, payments, lending, and even customer marketing. And lastly, you guys know this, QBO allows you to leverage third-party apps like Figured. So we know today the bulk of agriculture clients are still using desktop. So most of these benefits have not been realized by these clients. We also know that the farmers and agriculture clients need your expertise as the accountant to help navigate their turbulent operating conditions. So there's a real need here to provide advisory services for the agriculture industry. And to help with this, Intuit and Figured have come together to deliver enhanced farm reporting and advisory services that drive efficiency, growth, and profitability. So we're able to provide this in real time with financial data and insights across the entire farming team. So this helps both the accountant and the farmer. And together, these two companies are committed to making more informed decisions for you, deliver efficiency, build agility and resilience, and most importantly, help you improve your profitability.
Thanks, Tim. I see there's the topic of this conversation is CAS. So what does CAS mean? It's client advisory services. Historically, that as a service is incredibly fast growing, but it hasn't been fully integrated into specific verticals or industries within firms. And that's where we think there's a really strong opportunity. And we think there's opportunity because it's the fastest growing, and for many firms, it's the fastest growing service line. Based on survey data that we've conducted, it lines at around 16% year on year, which is absolutely incredible. In comparison to this, we've done some surveys across 30,000 of our farming businesses, and we can see for them it's the highest growth and the most profitable service line going forward. Really conscious that we're framing up this conversation today and this webinar around the fact what the opportunity is, and really importantly, we will get into the product to actually see how that can work in reality, as well as the fact there's going to be an opportunity following that demonstration for you to secure the opportunity to work with Figured and QuickBooks Online in a really innovative way that has a time lapse on it. The opportunity for you is significant in the fact that these three types of farm products that Figured has in the solution actually support the different types of CAS that we're going to be speaking to today. So very much entry level, Then we've got those where you might be providing some form of service, and then with those we've got this opportunity to sort of turbocharge those advisory services into the agri team. I think importantly here, and we're really strong. We've got a strong view that Figured is best deployed through the advisor, and typically that means the accountant, the trusted advisor. But that said, Figured and QuickBooks Online, it's a massive opportunity for the farming business as well, particularly in times of flux, giving farmers better information for decision making. Proactive decision making rather than just reactive is incredibly important, and actually a strong responsibility for those involved in the farming team. Better, more timely information allows ag producers and their families and their network to make better, faster decisions. What we're trying to see at the moment, again, the reason we're working alongside QuickBooks Online is they are best in class in the work they do in providing those core accounting services. So in combination, we think we can ease the pressure for our accounting partners, deliver you growth you need and growth you want, and help and fundamentally deliver better outcomes for farmers. While the above holds true, and we think it needs to be the farmer at the end of the day who's getting this value, any type of shift or change management around technology, it does require strong leadership from the trusted advisor. In this instance, it is you, the accountant. Farmers, we all know them, they're tactile, they're very pragmatic, but they want to see something that's outcome based. They won't buy into hypotheticals, so we've got to work collaboratively to deliver them something they can see and touch in terms of how it can affect them and their family's farming business.
Perfect. Thanks, James. So what we've seen in the market already is that agriculture practices inside firms are really having a hard time delivering at scale for growing this into a true CAS practice. So we've asked ourselves, why is that? And what we do know is that agriculture is very, very specialized. So accounting firms have tried to unlock this opportunity. The hard part is that they're only using the tools available today. And generally that means spreadsheets. So we know this opportunity can't truly be unlocked with using, just spreadsheets. So QuickBooks Online is incredibly powerful on its own, but we've recognized that you can't unlock this opportunity by just using QuickBooks Online and spreadsheets, which is why we're here with Figured. So spreadsheets are great, but they really are not there to help your agriculture clients. So as James said, by combining these two tools together, it really provides the key to unlock a new CAS vertical for your firm.
Thanks, Tim. Now, what does this mean in practice, I suppose? A product like Figured is only as good as the service that's designed around it. And for us, that means the obvious starting point and the path of least resistance is actually with those existing customers you have. While it's really interesting to go and win work using solutions like Figured in that service, there's a whole lot of value that can be delivered to those existing clients. They are the growth opportunity as we see it. And we're talking about fee growth without needing to acquire new customers or add new staff to the team. Everything we're talking to today is scalable, which is incredibly important. So let's consider the customers you have and the services you currently provide them. Where we see Figured, and I'm going to be speaking today specifically around this time of year, that post-harvest conversation, the lead up to tax time, how can we use Figured, the service it provides, the expertise within the accounting firm, to sort of support customers to be bridged between these different parts of the pyramid. Your core base, and you'll be able to recognize a customer in your head when you're thinking about these. Tax compliance, they require all your compliance services, late majority of doctors to advisory. These might be your very strong in-hand farming, family farms, commercial mindset, but are really concerned about what's inside the farm gate. They haven't had an opportunity, and maybe the tools alongside their advisor to actually have a helicopter view of their farm's performance. The bookkeeping, this segment's is your high earning or at-risk clients. Higher touch point. There's higher touch points that could have more points of value delivered to them as part of that cadence. They're interested in growing an efficient business. They're interested in engaging their advisor more or through necessity. But there may be additional points of value we can introduce to these clients that is high value, but doesn't require anything more intrusive or anything more additional work from your side. And then we've got our our sort of top order CAS clients. There might be some form of white glove service at the moment in terms of how you support them. It might not be structured in a way that's scalable. So it might be taking a lot of time from those key performers in the business. We're at a partner level to support these clients. That means you can't take on more business or bring other clients up from tax compliance and bookkeeping into the section. They're incredibly valuable clients. We're trying to think today, how can we distribute that same level of service we put into those top clients to the bookkeeping and tax compliance potentially. Just before I get into the a poll and then the product, we're going to demonstrate how this works in practicality. I think it's really important to frame up what we're talking to here today. So you'll hear this terminology a lot. You'll see in our marketing materials. It's part of what we call our now, where, how. And in our mind, this is our 3-step advisory program, right? Everybody comes to you and says, you've got to do advisory, but there's never been a clear path to how you actually do it. So it can be a little bit frustrating, I understand that. So for us, it's a surprisingly, hopefully simple gateway to produce a recurring commercial opportunity with those existing clients. It uses standardized tools, really important. Tim talked at the beginning of this about the notion that there's still spreadsheets. The rusted on spreadsheet attached to a desktop solution that's fantastic. It had its time and place, but it's potentially not defensible long-term as a solution, both in terms of the technology changes, but also in terms of increased times of flux. There's going to be different macro, micro effects. That means having more dynamic information is really, really important. So we start with the now. If I look at this in terms of, say, post-harvest conversation or close to, that might be the one point in time where we've got the client's engagement. They're looking to see what's actually come off farm, what's the value of that, and what the next decisions could be made. We've got a huge opportunity here using QuickBooks Online to produce some additional forms of outputs we can take through clients through, whether it is, for example, a crop season summary. We're working to a harvest year or down to a field level. These are points of value that have been driven from the inventory solution they might be using currently, so spreadsheets, for example, and also the QuickBooks desktop file. So we want to bring this online so we provide them a timely form of outputs they can actually act upon for the next year going forward. As part of that, we want to see what would they be buying if we could produce a 5-year plan. Everything being equal, if we want to put together a 5-year plan based on past performance and some key level assumptions that we want to help these clients take forward, we can use that as a way for them to address the where. Where do I want to go with my agricultural business? And that can be a little bit confronting for some ag producers. They might have a view in their head of what good looks like or what parts of the business are profitable. But if we actually wrap some numbers around it in a really efficient and timely way, this could be the perfect time. And that back end, that last 20 minutes of that tax conversation coming up, if we were to produce a 5-year plan for you, James, this is what the business would look like, everything else being equal into the future. So it's just trying to understand how can we use technology to take past results and position that in a way that might actually be quite emotive, whether it's family or business goals going forward. And then we've got the how, and we'll touch on this in terms of how it relates to forward-looking plans. But the how is actually fantastic. We understand there's a need. We understand there's actually a bit of an emotive decisions potentially going forward around succession, any of those potentially ad hoc services at the moment. How do we actually deploy that into a plan which we can then manage and get around as a farming team? So and that's the point there, at the top of the triangle, that how do we actually wrap our services around that? And we'll be stepping through that as part of the product. Just before we do that, and bear with me as I get a poll up, we've got a couple of polls here which I'll launch a poll here, just to give us a bit of background on how you're working with your clients at the moment. I had a quick look in terms of the attendees, and I think we've got a broad range, both from roles within an accounting firm all the way through to the types of clients we serve based on geography. So this will give us a good bit of background, allow me just to tailor the demonstration to how we speak to, which is brilliant. Let's give it another few seconds. Looks like most have contributed. Share results. And then I'll launch a similar one here if you and this one here, this isn't really important. And the language we've chosen here is quite deliberate. everyone's going to be supporting clients on tax, right? Everyone's going to have a payroll function. It's where that sort of pointy end additional service line sits, potentially around planning and benchmarking, if we want to try and get our head around and how we can sort of potentially tailor the work we're going to do to that. Got it. And I'll, in the interest of time, we'll share that. Brilliant. Okay, that looks pretty consistent with what we thought based on those attending this demonstration. Jump out of that. Ahead of you joining this session, we had you answer a couple of questions, both in terms of where you see yourself fit on this. So review this in your head and we'll show you the numbers, but essentially the establishment of CAS, so client advisory services. How do we get started? Again, people continuously tell you, how do we actually get started on this? Do we need more ag experienced staff? A common question, particularly at the moment, some of the constraints and pressures around hiring, and our clients aren't asking for it. Something that I'll reflect upon conversations I've had recently. Again, farmers are pragmatic, they're tactile, they need to be shown an output before they buy into it. If they don't deal in hypotheticals, it's incredibly important in terms of getting buy-in from those clients. And there's a point of conversation there around how we start deploying Figured and QuickBooks Online, potentially internally. The scaling of client CAS advisory services for those of you that might be doing something, but it might be ad hoc, and you think there's an opportunity to extend that into the firm. There's a strong weighting towards that, and then those who are optimizing. So those are optimizing CAS services or wish to. So you can see the opportunity and you can see where the future's going, and you want to see how you can better support that. So these were the numbers here. So by and large, what we expected. With that, I will enter into a demo environment of Figured. So I've stood this up as an overview of how Figured can be used to address the now, the where, the how, and also included in that how Figured integrates with QuickBooks Online. I think it's incredibly important in that it's two different companies that have made a decision to come together to better support clients, and there's an integration and a sharing of information to make that make sense. So how do we work? Figured and QuickBooks Online, we work together because we're both excellent at a particular task or a particular point of value. QuickBooks Online is best in class in the market in terms of providing accounting and general ledger services. And Figured just does one thing. We do one thing really, really well, and that is farm financial management. So we decided to come together, and the best way for us to do that is recognize the fact that there are going to be sales and purchases, an example, between the two products. So we share across a chart of accounts. So typically when you're going to connect a QuickBooks Online file or convert a client from QuickBooks Desktop to Online, you do it in tandem with connecting that client to Figured at the same time. And we'll work with you. If you're getting to grips with Figured, you'll find not so much the technical learnings, it's around how we establish the workflows with you. And that's something we'll heavily invest sort of post agreement. So we work through in terms of the connecting of the chart of accounts. And that's important because it allows us to realize that there is a source of truth that comes from having a QuickBooks Online connection. We rely on the fact that they're getting those bank transactions, they've been coded off, we're pulling those through into Figured, we're recognizing that within the QuickBooks Online file as you see here, and that in turn is then going to be realized in our allocations tool, which I'll step into a little bit more in a second. But essentially allows us to take that, in this instance, a cost, and then allocate that down to a crop and a field. So we can start to build out some of those different profit centers in the farm. In terms of the integration, we continue to update and refresh during the day. So if you're in the file, and again, depends on how much you're in the product and where you are on that triangle in terms of advisory services, but constantly refreshes. If you've got a client that leans towards this heavily, you might be in here on a daily basis. The vast majority, it might be a longer cadence throughout the year. So the Figured will continue to update, and so will QuickBooks Online, based on the fact we've got a shared chart of accounts. Excellent. Now we've got the establishment of CAS, and this is what we talk to here. Bear with me. Yeah. So now we've got the establishment of CAS. So the establishment of CAS is the now, and for most businesses, and I think if we look at, say, commercial businesses away from agriculture, having an understanding in real time of your business's performance, both in terms of the different profit centers within the business and in terms of real-time information, has become largely table stakes. Agriculture, I think, unfairly is labelled as they don't want to step towards this, or maybe they haven't had the opportunity to through technology. So now what Figure does is we enable that. So through the integration with QuickBooks Online, we can take, for example, this is low interest expense, so we can take any of these expenses that come through QuickBooks, we can allocate those out to one of our profit centers on the farm, and I'll take you through that, how it works from a track perspective. We can allocate that out down to, for example, our corn 2023, and then we can go a step further down to that field level. Now, the vast majority of clients, they might feel pretty comfortable just operating it at a crop or a season level. We don't pigeonhole agribusiness into just a financial year. We do allow you to work to a season or a harvest year, for example. And the reason being, we try and make the figured file look a little bit more like something a farmer would actually recognise. Presenting to them a set of financial statements that doesn't look and feel like a farm is quite difficult for them to get buy-in in terms of what they can do more, what else they could look at. So we try and provide an agri lens to Figure and QuickBooks Online. So we can allocate that through, and we'll see how that's reflected in our trackers. So trackers are essentially built within Figured, and these are your different profit centers on farm. Figured's not modularized, so you don't, for example, purchase a livestock or a ranching or a cropping solution. Figured's designed for the fact that these are multifaceted businesses, so you can have a livestock or a full circle livestock and feed operation, and Figured will recognize that, and we can attribute those costs down to the different profit centers. So corn 2023, see those costs and other income reflected, and we'll take you through how this can be seen as an output at the end. And we also have our harvest. So the idea, and it's really difficult, I think fundamentally people have treated, and again, I'm putting my farm hat on here as well, people have treated the non-financial information or gathering of inventory as a bit of an annual burden, and that probably goes both ways. It can be seen as a bit of a administrative headache. So what we're trying to do is the fact that's going to be captured. What can we do with that information? What can we do with that information that provides a point of value back to the client that gets them engaged? So that harvest is coming off the farm, right? We can recognize that. We then in turn, we can actually there's a virtual store of value within Figure 2 through our product warehouse. We can be smart, we can be tax efficient, we can go through and purchase, for example, chemicals the season before and bring them in, store in a warehouse. We try and present Figured in a way that actually ties the farmer's thinking, and also the accountant supports that thinking back to something that's a little bit more reflective of what they understand. So at the moment, we've just taken the actuals as they come through from QuickBooks Online. Any sales and purchases from Figured, we can also push those through and recognize the inventory. Figured keeps all your livestock and crop on-farm movements into hand, and in turn, we can then start to produce some reports. So we're not tied solely to financial reports. Now it means we can actually start to introduce in some agri-specific reporting as well. So for example, we've got a crop season summary here. This takes into account that production summary. Again, it's just all those non-financial movements that we talked to at the beginning there that came from the trackers and allocations. And now we've also got a financial summary as well, which is really, really powerful. And it especially speaks to the fact that we can now introduce this at a higher touch point, a stronger cadence throughout the year. We can introduce introduce report packs to clients. So you can do a really structured way of introducing a set of reports that's tailored, might have partner level assumptions, and we can introduce that through more junior staff in a cost-effective way to more clients, with the idea being that we can bring them into that high advisory cadence. Then we've got scaling CAS. So everything we've talked to up to now has by and large been on an actuals basis, which is fantastic. And for a lot of businesses, that's a big step forward, because even if it's just on an actual basis, it still means they can make proactive decisions based on timely information. Beyond that, we're now talking to the where. So that was the now. Now, where do we want to go? And again, if I look at the conversations you might be having now or in soon to the future, it's going to be around, all right, James, we understand the current state of the business as of today. Let's produce something really, really timely. We can produce, say, a 20-minute figured scenario. We can take all the learnings of the last years, and we can look to produce a scenario based on your forward-looking position. And you can do multiple scenarios. You can copy them. This is a product that was originally built for lenders in the market, but you get a market-facing version of this. You can do up to 10 years. There's some really interesting forward-looking planning that you can do on, for example, an acres basis as well. And you can import and use your existing farm data, or you can do one from scratch. We can take our snapshots. We're realistic. We understand that most agribusinesses and a lot of them, they operate in cash. brilliant, that's fine. We use the language profit for accrual. You'll see that, but within Figured, you can also toggle between a profit and accrual view at all times. So instead of having just a cash book, you can use Figured as actually an accrual solution as well. We can put together a scenario here for a land expansion, or if we want to just say past performance, let's extrapolate that out across multiple years into the future. We can sit down at the end of that tax conversation and actually have a really interesting conversation. So everything else been equal, James, this is where we're going to end up in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. You're going to get 3-way reports. So you're going to P&L cash flow and balance sheet that's reflected based on those scenarios. And again, where we see this used really, really cleverly is if we have, say, partner level assumptions or that knowledge from the senior leaders in the agri team within the firm, we can have this actually generated really quickly by junior members. And then the partner can take that into that meeting, have a really interesting conversation at the end that hasn't actually costed a lot in terms of investment of time, but it's slightly more positioned beyond just the standard tax compliance conversation. You get some really interesting KPIs here to step into as well. And just conscious of time, so I'll step into how Figured works to the how. Everything I've talked to here, we can take offline if anyone wants to learn more about it and do specific sessions at a deeper level around how this can be reflected for your specific use cases. But we've got the how. So the how is actually we want to import historical information, or we can start from fresh. We can take last year's actuals, something of a cheats budget. If you've got an agribusiness who's never budgeted, it's too hard basket, absolutely fine. We can take historical information, put it within Figured, and then again, we can apply some key assumptions. We can apply spreads within the farming business as well. So you can copy across, you can adjust, say, for example, you can adjust for inflation, farm working expenses, different commodity prices. As the actuals come in from QuickBooks Online, they in turn are going to repopulate, and we can actuals we forecast at any point in time. Again, this is available to all clients from QuickBooks Online, so you can produce a variance report. And again, over time, the more information we have, the more interesting that becomes. But it allows us to actually step towards the where. We can do multiple snapshots of this as well. So you're not tied to a specific budget. You can have different budgets, but we can do multiple sets of budgets and plans as well. So we've got a variance report. And you can go through set of packs. There's live commentary as well. Just as we step towards the last minutes of this, 2 things I'd like to make you aware of. We're going to continue these types of interactive sessions. So there is on the 7th of February, our first how-to. Again, we spoke to the beginning of this. Everybody's telling you to go and do advisory, knocking on that door. We actually want to wrap around some services and some expertise from ourselves in QuickBooks Online around how we do that, how we've seen that be successful. So I encourage you to come along to that or to share that with others in your team. And secondly, this is something we'd love to have a conversation about with you. We're not naive in terms of the time pressures you have over the next 2 months, particularly through tax season. So there's a really, hopefully, interesting opportunity here for you to sort of look to, step slowly into Figured from an engagement, lock in some price and discounts. There's a payment holiday, understand that that's going to be really difficult, but you can get access to Figured through there. And then some of the wraparound services, so CAS growth plan resources. The marketing, go-to-market support, I can't stress enough how important that is. This is only interesting if you can actually take it to clients with those existing outputs and actually get buy-in. But please sign up for this and sign up for the next webinar. If you've got any questions at all, my details are available following this. I'm your primary point of contact here in North America, alongside the rest of the team. And we have the opportunities to go through and take you through Figured in more detail, or we can go through both in the CAS growth acceleration offer, but also the next webinar. And with that, I'd really like to thank you for your time. I think we're exactly on 11:30. So we've hit that true. And yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, everybody.